We're back, everybody. Jace Wilder with us, the Tennessee Equality Project. A lot going on. We're talking about same-sex marriage legislation. A big move in Washington today. A bill passed that is going now to the president's desk for signature, and it will become law. We're going to talk a little bit about that. LGBTQ plus community, the issues they face in 2022 going into 23 here in Nashville, and how the Tennessee Equality Project works to advocate for these individuals and works to lobby our state lawmakers for changes. Not always easy in Tennessee, but changes are happening slowly for this group of people. You may agree or disagree, but we got a lot to get to. We have callers coming in already, so I want to get to our first caller first to get through some, and we appreciate. Let's see right here, Mike. Welcome to Open Line, sir.
Hello, good evening, Rhori, and good evening to Jason. I believe it is
Jace. Yep.
Jace, I'm sorry. Good evening, Jace. My question is, how did LGBT rights and to make that legal in every state get wrapped up with same interracial marriages on that same bill?
I'm going to look this up while you're talking.
Basically, I see that the LGBT want to be recognized in every state and not go to one state, not be recognized. I get it. I just don't understand why interracial situations have been put in that bill when you have two Supreme Court justices that are
in interracial marriages. Right.
Right. And so, and being raised in a Baptist church, I should have the right to go by what I've been taught by my preacher and everything, that their interpretation of the Bible says one thing. We don't have to get into that, but basically, my Bible has taught me a man's supposed to marry a woman is supposed to be with a man. You may have your own interpretation, and God has given us all free will to do that. My thing is human rights. Right. If I see somebody doing something to you, Jace, calling you out of your name, you walking with your lover or partner, and somebody gets out and wants to confront you, guess what? As a heterosexual black man, I'm going to get out and I'm going to be on your side, and we're just going to, we're going to go against them as a team. That's how I see it. And I would hope you would do the same thing as me as a black person.
Right.
And what are your thoughts with that bill being interlocked with interracial marriage? And I'll hang up and listen.
Mike, thank you. What a great way to start this off with the calls. We appreciate it. Let me hit that. I want to say one thing that he mentioned. It's just basic human respect, how you're raised. Every now and then we see, and again, I'm an idealist. I do believe there's far more great people out in our community. We hear the headlines, and we hear vicious attacks. We hear homophobic and racial racism and all sorts of things. And I do believe that it is a small percentage of people. And even among those, I just think that there are people who are missing love in their life and have fear and the unknown and all of that. I'm not a psychologist. But, we do stories. If we ask, we say there's a small church here, or if we said that a group like the Tennessee Equality, they're running out of money, they need, whatever we say on the air, this is one of the great things about my job. We put out the call and you respond. People just naturally, intrinsically say, what do you need? It's like when disaster strikes, the floods, tornadoes. We're not looking at each other. I'm not looking at anyone, black, white, short, tall, man, woman, trans, whoever. You're a human being. You're my neighbor. What do you need? And that's a great thing. I'm going to get off on a tangent. I told you I would. Two other things I tell people. I tried to raise my kids this way, taking them when they were younger, like to a Titans game. And we're all cheering. And I told them, I said, look around you. I said, you will not find a more diverse mix of people, right? No one is looking around caring what church you go to, or whether you're gay or straight, or black or white or brown, or any, Democrat, Republican. We're all cheering for our team, having a good time, giving each other high fives. And the same thing happens happens at like concerts, music concerts.
Yeah.
And again, the same thing happens when there is a sudden crisis. Drop everything, help your neighbor. That's great. There is still the percentage out there.
Yeah.
But do you find that in general, your encounters, your interactions, when you tell your story, positive?
So for the most
and
part,
encouraging, I hope.
So I would say for the most part, and I definitely like also want to get back to like what he was bringing up as well. I feel like for the most part, yes, because most of the time, if someone does have any kind of harshness towards me or comes at me from a bad angle, it usually is resolved when I meet them again at that basic level of respect for the most part. Unfortunately, like many other trans people, there have been times where that has not always been the case, but for the most part, I do feel as though people do want to learn and understand how to respect me, and sometimes that also means like they do, like Mike was saying, have to go through what their morals and values also say and see where it fits in there as well. And I completely understand that. And back to what he was saying with, you know, how do I feel about the Respect for Marriage Act involving both same-sex marriage and interracial marriage, I think it makes perfect sense for me because of the fact that, first off, there are interracial couples who are LGBTQ, and that they also need the same protections, and they need to be able to say on all fronts that their marriage is protected, right? And that also, again, this brings that codification, that solidifies word for word in modern day language of the law, what is protected under federal statutes. And so it also kind of updates what previous legislation had said about interracial marriage and codifies it in that same safe regard as same-sex marriage, so that if anything,
like an added layer.
Yeah, an added layer, so that we can't have a situation where, you know, SCOTUS was bringing up trying to bring back up to the Supreme Court Obergefell, and they try to overturn that.
You're jumping ahead.
I'm jumping ahead.
Just a second. Hold on. Let me ask Josh, our producer, what's our next break time, just so I don't go over? Do you know it? We got a few minutes. So here's what we'll do. Let's backtrack so we can set the stage here. We go back to, excuse me, the Supreme Court, obviously, this past summer, overturned Roe v. Wade. Big landmark decision. And what it did, depends on where you get your news, but the basic thing is they sent the decision back to the states. No longer federally protected. We're going to let the states decide. Well, we know Tennessee and more conservative states already were prepared. They were hoping the conservatives this would happen, and they had trigger laws in effect. They were passed already, not in effect unless this happens.
Yeah.
And obviously it happened, so right away the trigger law goes into effect. Now there are many other states where abortion remains legal. There's a whole debate there. During the arguments and the question and answer, I believe it was Justice Clarence Thomas, a conservative, made a comment that really perked up a lot of people, and he talked about Obergefell, which is the decision that led to the legalization across our country in 2015, allowing same-sex marriage. Mentioned that maybe we should look at that and reconsider it. In other words, do the same thing, send it back to the states.
Right.
Which then is no longer a federal issue, and it's kind of like cherry picking. Oh, in this state, same-sex marriage, yes. This state, no. We know Tennessee lawmakers have already, they're conservative and have already kind of put into place, if it happens, no longer. So that's, today, the Democrats and many Republicans also, it already passed the Senate, in the House of Representatives, they voted and approved the Respect for Marriage Act, which basically tries to undercut all of this and codify, as you mentioned, federal protections. That's where we are, right? So how does this impact if now the Supreme Court does take a look at Obergefell and overturn it? Now all the people out there in same-sex, interracial marriages, part of same-sex, what do they do if they're in a state? You know, so there's a lot of issues in play. We're juggling a lot. I think I got the basics, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I appreciate it.
Now we're going to, that's what we're discussing. We're going to dive into the details and your comments, and I know Jason's got a lot to say about it, because it's an interesting concept. If we were in a more liberal state of California, maybe We're going to be fine. We're going to talk more about it. I'm going to get a sip of water. We'll be right back.